moving on. So next up, we have Bidani. So Eden, please join me on the stage here. So Eden has more than 10 years experience in direct sales and copywriting, and she's working with SaaS, tech, direct-to-consumer brands, and she has some really interesting stuff here for us. So Eden, pleasure to have you here. The stage is yours.
Thanks. Thanks. It's great to be here. Okay, hang on just a second. Let's do this. I'm going to share my screen so we can see this presentation. All right. Let's see. Okay, cool. Everyone can see? Yeah, fantastic. All right. So today I'd really like to speak with you about how to win and hold your audience's attention with emotion-infused headlines. So one second, let's go. So as we know, facts are facts, and we're living in an increasingly digital world. But just because we have so much information at our fingertips doesn't mean that we're able to concentrate more on that information. Because while we can now cram more productivity into every minute of our days, what that means is we're actually busier than ever before. We not only have to answer our phones when they ring, but when they ping with Slack messages, tweets, emails, more messages, more emails, and all of this is on top of our regular work, spending time with our families, keeping up with obligations, and pursuing our hobbies. So what all this means is not only are we more distracted now than ever before, but so are our audiences. So even if someone clicks on your social ad and touches down on your landing page, or is actively searching for a solution like yours in Google and clicks through to your website, you're not just competing with your competitors for their attention. You're competing with everything else that's happening in their lives right now, from thinking ahead to a dentist appointment they have, to beating the rush hour traffic home, to making sure their kids have done their remote learning homework, to what to cook for dinner, everything. You get the point. So no wonder they say that we only have 8 to 15 seconds or even less to convince a reader to stay on your page and to actually keep reading. So what can we do to compete with that? We can actually tap into the power of emotions to break through all this noise and genuinely capture their attention in a deeper, meaningful way, so that the messages that you want to share with them will stick in their minds long after they click away from your page. All right, so what your headline actually has to do to win their attention. So contrary to what we're taught in high school and college, a headline, especially on a landing page or a web page, doesn't have to summarize everything that's included below the fold. That's how you write an essay or a book title or the title of a blog post. But the purpose of a headline on a landing page or a web page is not to summarize. Your headline has 3 core purposes, and they're to make them stop. Make them stop what they're doing and focus 100% of their attention on you, even if it's only for those few seconds. The second thing is to make them think. You want to inspire them, motivate them, encourage them to feel something that will make your headline and the messages you want to share stick. And that's going to keep you top of mind even long after they click away from the page. And the third thing, you want to make them want more. And so by saying this, I mean you want to inspire them to learn more, to read more, to keep scrolling down the page for more information. You want them to be curious, excited, and we want to encourage them just to keep reading. So just to support these ideal headlines, I would love to share just quickly 2 one-minute lessons on the proper mindset for writing headlines from some famous old school copywriters. So this first one from advertising legend David Ogilvy is often quoted, and that's because it's absolutely true. So on the average, 5 times as many people will read the headline as the body copy. And when you've written the headline, you've spent 80 cents out of your dollar. Now this quote is, like I mentioned, it's true, because no matter what you're writing, an ad, a newspaper article, or especially a web or landing page, you need to spend the most of the time in your headline because it's the first thing your audience sees when they land there. But what I find with Ogilvy's quote is that it's paralyzing for marketers. With so much emphasis here on the headline, 80 cents out of the dollar, marketers think that they have to write a 4 or 5 word headline, like a witty, mind-blowing tagline that you see on a billboard. It puts a lot of pressure on you to write a solid headline, and which is why some companies end up with headlines that say X simplified, or X made simple, or X made easy. Which is why I like to balance this quote out and clarify what Ogilvy really means with this quote by direct response legend Joseph Sugarman in the AdWords Copywriting Handbook. So your readers should be so compelled to read your copy that they cannot stop reading until they've read all of it, as if sliding down a slippery slide. That makes it much better, because what this quote does is just takes Ogilvy's original headline and clarifies it, because your headline has to be compelling, but only compelling enough to make them want to read the lead that comes after it. And the lead only needs to be compelling enough to make them want to start scrolling below the fold for more information. So the headline doesn't have to, I mean, in terms of mindset, you don't have to write this incredible 3, 4, 5, or 6 word headline. You have to just write a headline that's compelling enough to get them to read more, to inspire them, to motivate them, until they've read all the way down the copy, all the copy throughout the page, and they haven't even realized it because they've been enjoying the ride. So again, this just takes the pressure off writing this fancy 6 word headline that summarizes everything and helps you just stay focused on writing a headline that achieves these 3 things that we mentioned: make them stop, make them think, and make them want more. So now we get to the fun part, how to infuse emotion into your headlines. So to write audience attention-winning headlines, you need 3 things. We need voice of customer data, we need headline formulas, and we need context. These are the 3 elements that are going to help you write great headlines. So first things first, where to find the emotions that relate to your audience. Now, I know some of the other speakers today have touched on how to source voice of customer data and how to get the right kind of voice of the customer data. So this is just a quick high-level overview. I don't want to just repeat some of the same things they've shared already. So just to find voice of customer data, you should be looking at things like customer satisfaction surveys, customer interview transcripts, which are brilliant, testimonials and reviews, and email threads, even from sales and customer support. But to help you find the highest ranking emotions or words or phrases that are really emotionally charged, the best thing to use is you can use either the find or search tool in your document software. So when you come across an interesting emotion or word in a transcript, you can find it, see how many times it comes up, and see if it's something that's expressed frequently. So that would be a good idea to test it. You can also create word clouds, use it, feed in the word cloud testimonials and pieces of information, and see which words, which emotive, really emotionally charged words and feelings are coming out of that, and make sure that those are the exact words that you use to reflect in your headline. And you can also do it the long way, just combing through each piece of data, of voice of customer data, as you go through, logging sentences and phrases into a spreadsheet as you go along. But this way is also good because it yields these really rich contextual and qualitative pieces of feedback that give you lots of ideas for the headlines to test later on. So, okay, so the question is, I'm going to show you a few examples because we're talking about the kind of esoteric concepts here. I want to actually show you how to put it into practice. So what kind of emotions or phrases should you be looking for? The answer here is twofold, because what the kinds of emotions and emotionally charged words and phrases you should be looking to include in your headlines depend on where your audience is coming from, like what ad they clicked on and what was the copy in the ad or the post or the email that leads to this web or landing page. And it also depends on your audience's relative stage of awareness. So that's what you want to appeal to. So when you're combing through your voice of customer data, you want to look for sentences, phrases, and emotions relating to these four elements. So either the before, so what life was like for them before they started using the solution, or what they were struggling with, the pain or problem that they're trying to solve, which is good for unaware pain or problem-aware audiences, and sometimes even solution-aware audiences if they're aware of a pitfall or problem with an existing product. So this is a great example by SavvyCal as well. Sending your scheduling link shouldn't feel weird. It really that's for people that are used to using scheduling links. It's something that really appeals to them, to a certain segment of their audience. Okay, the second type of emotions that you want to look for are ones that relate to the pain and the problem, what they were looking to solve, that they're already in that pain problem stage of awareness, they're looking to solve, they're really feeling it, they really want to take care of this problem. So, or you need to look at emotions that are related to the difficulty that they're facing in the search for a good solution. And for example, Hotjar, because now there's quite a few different analytical and heat map and all sorts of customer data platforms at the moment. So Hotjar, what Hotjar does is they understand how your users are really experiencing your site without drowning in numbers. So drowning in numbers is something that a lot of people struggle with. They struggle with this. We have all this data, but this is something that it feels overwhelming. So Hotjar is implying that they take away that overwhelm, and so that they actually make it easy for them without saying, easy heat map software. Okay. Another type of emotions and things to look out for is relating to your audience's transformation, how they went from a pain or problem state to one of freedom and happiness as a result of using the solution. So this is one from a page that's in progress at the moment. It's by the Conscious Business Master Program. This is for like an MBA type course. So what was speaking to this audience was that some very high profile people had used this program. And so what we did actually was that we took an emotionally charged headline. We actually took a customer testimonial from a VP at Intel, and we actually used that as a headline instead. So it's also social proof at the same time. It's the life-changing experience is really emotive kind of phrase there, really meaty. Okay, and the last thing that you can look at in terms of which emotions that you want to tap into in your headlines is like the life after the honeymoon period. How much better, carefree, happy, easy life is like now with your product or solution in it. And this is great for solution, product, and most aware audiences, unlike Proposify, which says this is how you close. So discover the proposal software that gives control and insight in the most important stage of your sales process. So that's something really powerful. It speaks directly to people who are trying to close in the proposal, and they're right in the proposal process. This is how you close, not explaining exactly how they do it or the mechanics, but that this is the best way for them to do it without saying we're the number one proposal software. So the next stop is in headlines is headline formulas. Now, there are a ton of headline formulas online, and they're great if you need to get warmed up to help write some good headlines. So I've included a bunch of these awesome links at the end of the slide deck for you. But the real beauty of using voice of customer research to help inspire your headlines is that you don't need to use a headline formula. You can rely on one if you're feeling stuck or you don't know how to get started. But usually the voice of customer data is enough to help you get inspired to write it by yourself. So instead of just walking you through a random bunch of headline formulas, I'm just going to share my 3 top tips from my own experience that can help you write great headlines. The first one is to try and use action words wherever possible. Reading is passive, but we can energize this, and we can bring energy and excitement into that by using active tense and a good dose of verbs. Get, save, win, discover, all these kind of things that imply action as well. They really help drive conversions. So as well, my second tip is to use the word you wherever it makes sense. You is one of the highest converting words in copy, so it really stands out. It takes the focus off you and your product or your company and puts it on the reader themselves. So if they're using the word you, but if using the word you doesn't make sense for your company, it's fine. At least try and make sure that the headline is not so directly company facing. We're number one, we're this. It's great and it might be true, but what kind of information does that actually give to your audience? And the third tip is don't be afraid of long headlines. Copy should only be as long as it needs to get the point across and nothing more. So even though statistics might say a 6 or an 8 word headline might perform better, don't stress about it. You can use as many words as you need to get your point across. Clearer and longer. A clearer headline and a longer headline is better than trying to make it too short, trying to cut all the context out of it and make it too short or too clever. And the last element of high converting headlines so we have is context. So what you need to look at where your audience is coming from. Again, we touched on briefly where did they see your social ad? Was it on LinkedIn? Were they searching for it in Google? Were they on Facebook? Where did they see your ad? What kind of stages are they? A stage of awareness are they supposed to be in? What messages they've seen up until now? Because consistency between ad to the landing page or the email to the landing page is also crucial. So what messages you have there will need to resonate with the messaging that you have on the page. Otherwise, it's a huge disconnect for readers as they move from one place to another. And as well, you also need to be aware of where they're actually going to go in the journey from here. So they've clicked from the ad, the email, wherever they've come to this certain page, where are they going to go next? So you need to just have that context so that you know how much information that should be on the page as well. All right, and all this affects the type of headline that you end up using. All right, so just to sum it up really quickly, so here's all what you need to do to write great attention-grabbing, emotionally charged headlines. We need voice of customer data, we need headline formulas, and we need that context. So where your audience has come from and what is their likely stage of awareness to be. All right, so just to finish off, I'm going to walk you through a couple of great examples of emotion-infused headlines in the wild. Okay, and explain exactly what they did in their headlines to make it work. Okay, so with RFs, you don't have to be an SEO pro to rank higher and get more traffic. Why it works. This headline aligns with the audience's end goal, what they want to do. They want to rank higher and get more traffic. So they're already referring to what the end outcome is going to be for them. It also references a commonly held belief and smashes it. The commonly held belief is that one has to be an SEO pro to rank higher and get more traffic. So, but the way that this headline is structured as well, it makes you curious, as it doesn't actually tell you how it works. It just tells you what it does for you. It tells you the outcome, but it doesn't actually tell you how it works, and it doesn't need to. That information is below the fold. So this is going to make someone curious enough to actually want to continue reading. Okay, another great example is Xero. So accounting software to do your to-do. So first of all, the great use of alliteration and repetition. That's always something good that builds trust, and it's really easy to read this and say. But it also really covers what it is. It makes it very clear it's accounting software, and it makes it clear that it's something that you use to get things done. But it doesn't actually go into all the nitpicky details of why it does that or how it does that. So what it actually does, it actually shows how it fits in to the audience's lives. This is something that you use to get things done, to tick things off your to-do list rather than adding more work to your day. All right, and one of my favorite examples as well, Typeform. Make people smile, get more useful data. So whenever someone goes to create a form, and we all know this, we have all had bad experiences with bad forms or poor user experiences with forms. So what you want actually people to do when they get your form, you want to delight them. You want to make them fill it out. You want to make them respond. You want to collect more responses. So one of the things that you can do, if your form is going to make somebody smile, that's really powerful. That means you're going to get a response. It means you're going to get positive response. It means you're going to get feedback, and you're actually going to be able to collect the data that you need to actually apply it and move forward. So that's what they've actually referenced here. So the form itself is so the type form is the catalyst for this transformation. So that transforms forms so that they make people smile, and then you can get the data that you need as well. You don't want people to roll their eyes at and go, oh gosh, another form. Again, it just goes quickly into how beautiful the form is, and then it helps you get responses, and that's exactly what people are looking for in the software. That's all I have for you today. I've included a link, including links to these websites and a whole ton of headline formulas for you as well, so you can check them out in your own time, and then go write some attention-grabbing, emotion-infused headlines of your own.
Thank you very much. We have time for some questions as well. So guys, if you have questions, please type them into the chat or the questions tab. So I'll start off with one. Question for you, are you familiar with the concept of narrative design and strategic narrative?
Yes, with strategic narratives, yes.
So if you look at stuff that Andy Raskin is talking about, and you lead with the change in the world, and Gong.io, which is one of those prime examples of category creators that is growing like crazy. They basically defy some of those classic copywriting formulas, if you will. Mm-hmm. So what do you have a take on this? Do you have an opinion?
On strategic narrative in general?
Yeah, and leading with the change in the world as opposed to an emotion of the end benefit.
Yeah, and that's a good one. So again, it relates a lot. I mean, you touched on the point there already. You said it. They created a category, so they kind of have to lead. They have to lead with that strategic narrative. It's like when Basecamp brought out, hey, their email software as well. So they're leading with the change. They created a change, and they have to lead with that. So yes, and there's emotions that come out of that, but they really they're really focusing on what they're doing that's different. Without necessarily, and they don't, and the emotions kind of, again, sometimes emotions can be really useful and helpful, but at the same time, if there's only so much information we can process at one point in time. If you're trying to layer on emotions and strategic narrative and this and this and this and this, they're going to get to the page, they're going to go, what's going on here, and people are just going to leave. So clear over clever is always going to win. But what Gong actually does, for example, is that they use emotions in their branding. So their visual identity is really tied in closely to the copy. So the heavy lifting here in terms of emotions is done with the visuals instead of the copy itself. So you see all, the sales reps going, yeah, no, and the whole Gong imagery, it's very fun and it's uplifting, even if the copy is not necessarily conversion focused.
Mm-hmm. Would you ever not use an emotion and go after emotion? Would you ever just go for a really practical type of approach because it's like B2B and serious?
When you did that, yeah, it really depends. It depends on who your audience is. It depends on again what stage of awareness they are. It depends on the industry a lot as well. So while there is room to be funny, while there is room to be emotional, while there is room to be exciting, sometimes it depends on who's going to be seeing the page, who's going to be visiting on the page, who are the decision makers in terms of that process. So who the copy is actually directed to, because what we often find sometimes is you'll have people who are lower down in the chain of command who are browsing the site and recommending the product or a software to their higher ups, but they're not the ones that are actually have the ability to make decisions. So the site needs to sometimes be geared more towards the end users, like in a product-led company, or it needs to be more geared towards the enterprise customers. So there's and then it's going to change depending on where. So there's a few different ways you can do that. You can do like a split homepage, showing how the solution ticks all those boxes for higher ups and ticks the boxes as well for the end users themselves. Or you can make sure that you have a separate page that explains it in a more enterprise kind of tone. There's a few different ways that you can get around it, or you can save that as well for the about page as well. There's a lot of flexibility.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you again, Eden. It was a pleasure to have you.
Okay, thank you.